I was the one that said, okay, I will sign the lease. It's a 1-year lease. And I signed it without telling my mom because I knew she was going to say no, but I knew that this was years in the making and that I needed to take a risk. So if we didn't make a dime, I would just take out a loan and pay that lease off.
Oh man.
And I'll figure it out later.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Dance with Life Academies. This is podcast episode 4, I believe. And today I got the one, Jake Riley, with me here of House of Dance. So I'm gonna jump right into it. Jake, give us an introduction of yourself. Start from as early of a memory as you can with dance, and then just touch on any major points or influences you've had since then throughout your career, all the way up until today.
All right. That could be a long story in and of itself, but once again, my name is Jake. Thanks for having me, Vincent, today. My b-boy name, or AKA, is Boogie B, and I have been breaking for 16 years. So, I grew up seeing dance. My mom did traditional dance when she was a kid. Never thought it was going to be for me at all. Particularly breaking is the style that I've done pretty much my whole career and focused on. And I remember seeing breaking in videos, music videos. There was no YouTube yet, but there was like movies and things. And I would remember looking at it and go, I could never do that. Like, there's no way I could ever do that. But what really got me interested in doing it was when I saw a talent show at my junior high school's Brooklyn Junior High here in Brooklyn Park. And it was a group of Hmong guys breaking for the talent show on stage. And I couldn't tell you what they were doing, but I was amazed by it. And I also noticed how much attention they got, not just being on stage, but their individuality. When they would do a move, people would scream out their name. And I liked that. I wanted some kind of attention. At that time, being like a 13-year-old boy, you're looking for a lane, and you care about popularity and girls and all that stuff. So that was my first real exposure to breaking, and that's what got me interested. From there, I started bugging the guys who were performing. I had a couple friends of friends. I actually skated 5 years before I started breaking, and then I suffered a groin injury, and I had to have a hernia surgery. Oh. And then when I came back to skating, it just wasn't the same. So I kind of lost love and passion, but skate culture and breaking culture have similarities in their energy. And so that's another reason why I got into breaking. Long story short, just started practicing. I started kind of like poking the guys that were at the talent show. And they were like, who is this dude, man? What, is he serious? Like, they were a little suspect of me at first. But I would go in my mom's basement and practice every day. I got a group of friends with me, and they were also into it. And that would become what would be the first generation of Optimistic crew, the crew that I'm in, the crew that I've been in pretty much since I've started and still today. So just breaks through junior high school, got more serious as I got into high school. And that's pretty much how I got started.
Who's all part of Optimistic crew?
Yeah, good question. So currently today, there's generations of the crew.
Okay.
There are generations of the crew.
It wasn't like just a closed off crew, was it? Or is it?
No. In the beginning, it was like we're just a group of friends. And the one thing I think that's important to note is that we all grew up in the same neighborhood, okay. which is kind of in line with what the original breaking crews, some of them did. From the stories I've heard, is it's really organic. Again, like, you're friends, you're going to school together, you're growing up together, you're going through puberty together, you're trying to find an identity together. And we all had breaking to help us with that. There are generations. Currently today, we have about 6 members, active members. And so it'd be myself, Leroy, b-boy Finisher, b-boy J or Malvin X, Human, and then also Lido. Those are our active members. And then there are My wife is looking at me like I'm missing something.
Be careful.
No.
She knows you as well.
No. For me, I guess my definition of active is different, but I don't dance, so.
No, those are the people who I think if you asked other people too, you know, they would mention these names here. So, yeah, those are the members currently, and we had about the same amount of members when we first started. The original, I want to shout their names out real quick. I think that's important for history.
Yeah.
Are Jesse Jess, Matt, we called him Matt-tastic, Andre. We had a guy, my crew called Jonathan, and then Lil Zhao. Those were our core members, including myself, that were like the original Optimistic crew.
And back then, you know, based off of what I saw on like YouTube and Facebook, you guys traveled a lot to like jams and competitions and things like that, right?
Yeah, definitely. The traveling, the first time I traveled was when I was 16 in 2008. I went to LA for Freestyle Session World Final. And that was at the time one of the biggest, not just breaking, but hip hop dance competitions in the world. Brought in international talent. And they would even have like a concert sometimes with it. They'd bring in like a famous rapper or DJs, things like that. So first time traveling, going big, going straight from the Twin Cities to LA. That was a big jump. That was eye-opening. I didn't even battle. I had no one to battle with. So I just walked around. My dad actually flew with me. There just
you and
to
your
watch
dad?
me because my dad, yeah, just me and my dad, and then we met up with my aunt. So I was more of like I flew out there as like an educational, like, whoa, this is what it really is. This is how big the world is. Before that, I had drove to Milwaukee for a jam, a couple local regional jams, but traveling and competing, that really picked up as I was graduating high school. So we're talking 2010, 2011, 2012 is when we really started, and I really started traveling 8 to 15 times a year out of state.
Gotcha. All right. So, I wanted to get your opinions on a couple of things here. Some of them are hot topics. Some are probably hot topics like years ago or so. You know, I am not a break dancer. You know, I started off dancing as a break dancer because, you know, my crew was a b-boy crew. You know, but I was the one guy who didn't b-boy, right?
What was the name? What was the name of the crew?
It was just a small crew. In White Bear Lake, we were known as KRC, and then obviously, I was also part of Bio Freaks as well. Yep. And so, you know, having breakers around me, I was always still very influenced by breakers, and you know, even though I didn't break, you know, I seriously like fell in love with the b-boy community, and I swear I went to like every jam just to watch and support, and I was always blown away. But a couple of topics that I wanted to talk about quickly is, and I'll go one by one, is Red Bull BC won, you know, one of the bigger, if not one of the biggest b-boy one-on-one competitions in the world. About 2014, 13, 15-ish or so, they added commentary to their YouTube shows, you know, when you're seeing a 1v1 battle. And there are a lot of up and down reactions or feedbacks from that. What do you think about commentary? Do you think commentary adds more value to the BC1 battles, or do you think it takes away from like listening to the music and watching the b-boys battle?
Yeah, good question. I think that Rebel BC1 is definitely the most prestigious, and still today, I think it truly always has been the most prestigious one-on-one breaking competition in the world. And Red Bull has been involved in the breaking scene and supported the breaking scene. And you can find their logo on dance floors, even predating BC1. I would encourage people to go watch jams like Lords of the Floor, other events like that. There was even the Red Bull Beat Riders when I first started in 2004. I would encourage people to YouTube that, Red Bull Beat Riders. We actually had a couple local dancers here, and where it was is, sorry to go off topic, but just in terms of Red Bull to start.
What were the events that you talked about again?
Lords of the Floor.
Lords of the Floor. And what else was it?
And then Red Bull Beat Riders.
Red Bull Beat Riders. All right.
Red Bull Beat Riders was like because like right now, right, they have Red Bull dancers, which are like Dassy from Femme Fatale, and a lot of other different, dancers, all styles dancers.
Yep.
And then they have the BC1 All Stars as well, which is the breaking crew. But what the Beat Riders was is like a predated version of those two groups today, where they bring in poppers, and they bring in breakers into this camp, and they would learn from pioneers. So like two people I would mention is Dancing Dave, local popper, funk styles dancer. One of my first teachers, actually, I started my first class was a popping class, not a breaking class, I should say. He was a Red Bull beat rider, and then Slim Nasty from St. Paul, who was in Boombox crew, I believe, for a while, or like the leader of that crew. He was also a Red Bull beat rider. So I'd encourage, for Minnesota history, to check those things out. But in terms of Red Bull BC1 and commentary, going back to the topic, my bad. Yeah, in terms of the commentary, I think Red Bull BC1, what it did and continues to do is build a legitimate platform for competitive breaking to be looked at similarly to any other sport. Like a UFC, you have a commentator, interviewing the fighters, or X Games. I think it is important, and I do think I don't think it takes away. Obviously, it depends on the commentator. You could talk too much, you could talk loud, but I think if done right, commentating can actually enhance the viewership experience. I know one thing Red Bull's gotten some flack about is hiring commentators that aren't in the breaking scene directly. So they like mispronounce names, like mispronounce dancers' names. And I feel that if you're going to be hired for a gig, especially if you're not a breaker and you're going into the most prestigious breaking platform, that you should do your history a little bit on the dancers at the very least, so that you don't look like an idiot, to be honest. So I think that's been a big thing. And then, choosing your commentators wisely, choosing commentators that know the names of the moves, that know the DJs. Because if you know the music that's playing, you won't talk over the big moments, like the snare drum or the horn. There's someone's about to do a freeze. You're not going to be like, so, like you're not gonna conflict with that. So I think it's just,
you need someone who understands the music, the culture, all of that, so that, like you said, they don't just ramble on when everyone else knows what's about to happen.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is like the outreach of breaking in BC1 now is getting bigger, to the point where people who don't break are viewing it. And that's like, if you look at it the other way around, it's actually better to have a commentator for a viewer who is brand new to breaking or brand new to the scene, who doesn't know anything. They need a commentator to take them through what's happening. So that, to me, is another reason why commentating is important, and it builds legitimacy.
I was just going to actually ask you that. You answered it without me having to ask you. I was going to ask you, do you think that part of why they added commentator was to bring in new viewership? And yeah, you read my thoughts exactly. I think that's something that personally, I'm not a fan of commentators for a dance battle. But I appreciate the fact that, especially for the b-boy community, they are trying to expand and grow, which will lead me to the next one actually here. And quick preface question: did you watch, when it came out in 2013, this very controversial b-boy movie starring Chris Brown called Battle of the Year?
Oh yeah, of course.
Did you watch it? What are your thoughts on that? Because obviously there are up and down, positive, negative reviews.
Yeah. If I don't mind, if you don't mind, I want to just say one quick thing on the last point, but I'll
go for it.
Back to your point, is that I think it's important for viewers to understand that Red Bull is a corporation, and that they have a goal, like promotional goals for their brands. It's branding. That event is branding. Now, it doesn't mean that they're exploiting the breaking scene. They're giving the breakers. To me, it's a win-win. It's a win-win. I've been in a couple BC1 qualifiers, and I'll tell you, they treat you really well. They put you in a 4-star hotel. They give you really good food. They drive you around town. They pay for your travel. They'll give you gear. They really, really do it right. So, but I think it's important for people to know that if a major corporation like Red Bull is going to do that, of course they're going to have commentators, and of course that part of what makes BC1 so prestigious is not just the competitors, but their presentation, the stage, the crowd. It makes it look like it is. It's a stadium-esque venue. So I think it's important for people to know that that's why people have commentators. And I'm seeing now, if you watch this year's BC1, they're doing interviews, which I think is also good, because my goal as an educator, and we'll probably get into this in a little bit, and a dance studio owner, is to build legitimacy so that more professional opportunity, sponsorship opportunity, overall everything, endorsement opportunity, even potentially from sneaker, like always think of it in like a sports thing. You're not going to have any of that without this platform of legitimacy and making it look and feel good to not just breakers, because breakers are always going to have their opinion one way or the other, but to the general public. And I think that's what they're trying to appeal to. That might be too much, but,
no, you're good. You're good.
That's my take on it. And then to the next point of the battle of the year, I can see why people, look, kind of the same answer. Like, there is a major production company putting that on. I'm not sure who put it on. They have to make it appeal, right? Quote unquote, appeal to the mainstream masses, right? Mm-hmm. When you make a film, you have these numbers, these viewership numbers, and this money cap to hit and ticket sales.
Yep.
So that's why they put Chris Brown in there. They
need someone that people who don't know breaking will know.
Exactly. You need a big pop star who's also known for dancing. The funny thing is that his stunt double, like people think, oh, can Chris Brown do all those moves? It's actually a b-boy named K-Mel who was a stunt double. So who did a lot of his moves. But
okay.
my take on it is, are they a little corny? Are those movies a little corny? Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll just say the acting isn't always there.
The acting is rarely there, for sure. Yeah, these people are not hired to be like a Tom Hanks or a high level actor. That's for sure. But also I look at it from a perspective of a dance studio owner. I very rarely hear people get into dance or breaking in some kind of really authentic way. It's through watching a movie like that kids have now called my studio to learn how to break. Hey, I watched this movie Battle. I literally get calls like this. Hey, I watched this movie called You Got Served or Battle of the Year, and now my kid wants to break dance. Do you offer it? So, yeah, I think the movies are good platforms for growth in our community. I'm not too upset with the movie in any which way. I think the battle at the end and the dancers that they hired are legitimate dope dancers. Mm-hmm. And so those dancers were given a really good opportunity as well. So I look at it more of a win than a loss.
Gotcha. Yeah, for those who don't know, the dancers in the movie are legit dancers.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. So then there was a line in the movie where Josh Holloway, the coach of the Battle of the Year team in the movie, says that this is the Olympics of our sport. As he's going into Battle of the Year, the event in the movie. Mm-hmm. That being said, I'm sure that we all know that in 2024, the Olympics are planning to implement b-boy, breakdancing, into the Olympics. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. It's like, yet again, another major great development. I think it's awesome. I mean, think about it. Breaking is the only dance in the world that is going to be recognized by the IOC, by the Olympic Committee. So think about how far breaking is hip-hop dance, but just that our community, that community has come in such a very short amount of time. I mean, we're talking less than 50 years here. Mm-hmm. And now it's going to be recognized, or it is recognized in the Olympics. So anything, again, to build legitimization for our craft and what we do as practitioners, I'm all for. And I can't think of a better way to build that legitimacy to the world than to be a part of the Olympics. I know a lot of people, the breaking scene is like 50-50, but you'll have that in any scene, right? You'll have like who want to keep it where it's always been, because they're afraid that the essence is going to be lost. I think that as long as the practitioners are in control of the competitive process, meaning that we like credible judges are picked, that credible music DJs are utilized to play music, and that the breakers get to decide the most importantly, the judging system. As long as those three things are happen, I'm all for it. Let's go for it.
Do you know how I haven't looked into it too much. I read like an article or two, but the ones I've read didn't really answer my question. I'm wondering if you know. Do you know how they're planning to display breakdancing in the Olympics? Is it like a battle or is it like a showcase sort of thing?
Yeah, it will be a battle.
It will be a battle.
It will be a battle. Yes, it'll be, because that's the way it's for the most part always been. So it's not going to be like a pre-routine showcase like how Battle of the Year, like the crew performances were. It's going to be a straight up 1v1 battle,
gotcha.
which I like. I like that. I think a straight up battle in that way, freestyle battle, is truly, within the breaking community, truly the best test to see who is the more skilled dancer. And I know that they're going to do it that way. If you look back to the Youth Olympics, they did it. They've already had breaking in the Youth Olympics as kind of like a test run. And it was like that too. It was a 1v1 battle.
So in general, when you're trying to qualify for the Olympics, they have like certain qualifying rounds that you got to go into. Do you know how b-boys qualify to be, a representation of their country for this?
Yeah, good question. So to my knowledge, that is still being worked out right now. The IOC needs to pick, or not, is going to pick a sanctioning body within the US. So every country is going to have its own organization or sanctioning body that is going to be partnered with the IOC and responsible for putting on these qualifying events that you're talking about.
Okay.
I know that there are a couple groups here in the country who are there, a couple different organizations that are working to try to get that partnership. I'm not going to mention names here until it's for sure. But I do know both groups, and there probably is more than two, but I know that there's a front runner, a group that's been working on this for 2 years. Like, this has been in the works and kind of almost expected for 2 years. And so the way it's going to work is just like you said. I believe it'll be a ranking system. So you'll have to follow the tour. So just because you, let's say we throw a Midwest qualifier here in Minnesota, it'll still be a numbered tier ranking system. So let's say you win in Minnesota, but you don't go to anywhere else, you might not make it. So you really have to earn your rep all around the country to be able to represent the country, which I think is good. That way you're not a big fish in a small pond. Like, you could be the best breaker in Minnesota, but that doesn't mean you're ready to represent all of the United States in the Olympics. So that's the way they're going to do it. To the best of my knowledge now, that could change, but that's the way I've heard it will go down.
So then I want to jump ships a bit quickly here. And this is more of a personal side question that I'm curious about. It's not something that I was planning on asking, but when I first started dancing and I was attending all of these like b-boy jams, in the early 2010s through 13, 14ish or so. I went to school in Mankato, so out for in 2015, where I was pretty much gone for like the next like 3 or 4 years or so. When I came back, I noticed that there has been, I don't want to say a drop off, but there weren't as many community jams as I was used to seeing, 8 years ago. Do you know what happened? Was it just a generational shift, or?
Yeah, good question. Good question. Let's be real, man. It was a drop off. I do believe it was a drop off. Yeah, I would say the highest participation rate for breakers and just actively, like you said, as a community coming together was definitely between the years of, I'd say, like 2008, 2009-ish to 2013. And shortly, and after that, I think, what happened is there was a generation of youth dancers that were just a little bit younger than me, but also people my age who, life hits them. They have to find a job. They might have to help support their family. They go off to college. They lose interest. And one thing that's important, the reason I think for the drop off is, like, I do it with a crew. So if your crew quits, the chances of you quitting are very high if you don't pivot and find other people to do it with. So I think that's what happened. I also will say that there's just been a big shift in the scene. Like, for a long time, the breaking scene, there was no, I didn't even know the word all styles. There was no all styles. I never heard of that before. Very few people were teaching. Now, like, everybody's teaching. And there's still community events. I mean, we opened House of Dance in 2014. And since then, up until pandemic year 2020, we would throw between 4 to 8 events a year. So events are still happening, but it's not focused entirely around breaking, because breaking is not, there's still people doing it, but not to the same degree, like you said, during that time.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's you mentioned about how, like, when back then, especially for breakdancing, it was a very, crew focused, dancing with your buddies, and when one or two people, stop for whatever reason, whether it's personal, lack of interest, it kind of has this ripple effect, and that it kind of ties into, like, just how 2020 has been treating dancers and dance studios, where you eliminate that social aspect of dance, and it's hard to, like, overcome that as an individual or as a community. Honestly, it's crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
But so you said you started House of Dance in 2014. What led up to that? What was that thought? When was your first thought of, I'm gonna open up a dance studio? Like, take me through that entire process of how House of Dance came to be.
Yeah, well, I want to start by saying, I didn't start. I'm seeing a difference today between when I started and people who are coming in today, where people are starting today wanting to eventually be teachers, wanting to maybe potentially open their own studio, wanting these things. When I started, I didn't want, it's not that I didn't want it, I just didn't even think about it. I was so just focused on breaking and getting good at breaking, whatever that meant. I just wanted to learn the windmill. I wanted to learn a head spin. I wanted to learn how to air chair. I wanted to learn how to do a handstand. I was so just involved with trying to get good. And so why am I saying that? I'm saying that to say I didn't start in thinking, oh, I'm going to open a studio. It's going to be called House of Dance. Like, that was never really a part of the plan until it kind of came to me, or came to me. So how it happened was, there was a guy there, named Max One, a big mentor of mine, probably the biggest mentor of mine, who opened the bboy spot, biggest and baddest. And biggest and baddest bboy spot was a clothing brand that was for the b-boys, for the b-girls. And he was the one who founded Squadron, which is like one of the most iconic breaking crews ever. And this is right around that time of 2010, 2011. Max One would fly himself out here to Minnesota for our events to vend. So you'd see the vendor table, you'd see his gear. So he was the first one that I know to open his own spot. And he would host free practices, and his clothing, his gear would help pay for the rent of the facility. So it was a community center. Before then, I never even thought it was possible to open a break. Sorry about that. I got a phone call, but I'm on my phone. But yeah, I never thought it was possible. So I never even considered. Now, after Mex did it, Mex came to me, or Wealthy and I, shout outs to Wealthy. And because we were going down to Florida a lot, traveling a lot, and he said, I want to expand and I want to open a b-boy spot in Minnesota.
Oh, Wealthy
and
said
to
it.
Max One said it to
Oh,
Wealthy
Max
and
One
I.
said it. Oh, okay.
Max One, yeah, said it to Wealthy and I that, hey, I want you guys to travel all around the Midwest. I'm going to teach you how to vend the gear, and you guys can open your own space and run it. I'll teach you how to do it, and you guys can be a franchise. And we were like, I'm like 18 right now, bro, 19 at the time. Like, yeah, I was so excited. Long story short, things happened and it wasn't able to pan out. He was still running his b-boy spot down in Florida. But then Wealthy and I, and Max told me, was like, hey, you can just do your own thing. Matter of fact, you should just start your own thing. I think it'll be better long-term for you if you did that. And so Wealthy and I kind of looked at each other and was like, yeah, all right, let's start looking into it. So there was other community members here in the scene who we had a team of about 5 people or so. Jay was on the original team, and Jason with their company Atabomb. They had their clothing section of it. And then myself, Minzy, who was a big player in throwing jams in Minnesota at the time, Wealthy,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And Wealthy, we're going to kind of run the breaking side of it to get the center going. So this is like 2013, and we were meeting 4 times a week, gathering information, planning. But then it got to a point of, okay, when are we going to shoot? Because again, never been done before. There's never a solely dedicated hip-hop dance breaking studio in Minnesota. I mean, there's people teaching in other tap jazz ballet studios, but here and there, but never this kind of thing. So anyways, that's how it kind of came to be. Finally, in 2014, it came to a head where we were sitting in my mom's living room. I was still living with my mom at the time. And it was like, okay, who's going to sign the lease? We had found a space, and I was, again, still living with my mom. And I was the one that said, okay, I will sign the lease. It's a 1-year lease. And I signed it without telling my mom because I knew she was going to say no, but I knew that this was years in the making and that I needed to take a risk. So if we didn't make a dime, I would just take out a loan and pay that lease off.
Oh, man.
And I'll figure it out later. But so yeah, lo and behold, we opened we signed the lease in August of 2014. We threw our grand opening in September of 2014. And we've been, like I said, throwing community events, bringing out special guests, offering breaking and hip-hop classes for a long time. And then just about a year ago, we opened a funk styles section that includes popping and locking taught by Godset. So that's the story in a nutshell.
So, like you said earlier in the podcast here, you talked about how, in breakdancing or any scene really, it's always going to be like a 50-50 reaction. Half the people are going to love it, half the people are going to hate it, or maybe a good small chunk of people in the middle don't really care or don't have an opinion. But out of the people that don't like things, there's going to be about 10% of those people who really don't like it, who are really strict to like who are very conservative. And I don't mean that in the political way. I mean that in the literal term way, that they're conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if this is something you've gone through, but I just have to ask, a lot of people, especially the OGs from like the Bronx 70s and 80s, they see, I mean, of course, hip hop breakdancing as a Black art. And so being a Caucasian American person teaching breakdancing, opening a breakdancing studio, have you ever ran into any flack because of the color of your skin?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely have. But funny enough, it has never come from pioneers.
Oh,
It is the older generation. Guys who I know, because I traveled to the East Coast a lot, like over 20 times, not just to New York, but to Boston, to a lot of different areas over there, Boston primarily. And you'll go to those jams and you'll see a lot of OGs, a lot of OG rock dancers, OG b-boys who have been breaking since the 80s or before. And I've been lucky enough to have conversations with, brief conversations, but like conversations and listen to stories from people like Ken Swift, like really godfathers to the scene, and other people. I've met hip hop heads and MCs. I did a show, not for, but within the same event as Roxanne Shante, and people who really have just helped build hip hop up. And so the questioning about, me teaching hip hop or breaking, and being a white person never came from them. It's more of a recent phenomenon, I would say, from people who have questioned that. And so, I think it's very important as a practitioner for all of us, but particularly myself, to respect the history and have those conversations with the pioneers, and do that due diligence and make sure that when I'm teaching, I think we all should do this, but for sure running a studio, when I'm teaching, to give emphasis to the history and not just be the only one doing it. That's why we fly out special guests, not just in the breaking scene, but popping. We've had Crump workshops. Crump is different, but like, just to honor that history and then continue to be a student myself and have these conversations. I've had a lot of difficult, some more difficult conversations around race and my involvement in hip hop this year. And so, yes, some people have, but I think that, look, this is a community and culture that is based around what you contribute. And I think that what we offer at House of Dance, the proof is in the pudding. We are youth focused. House of Dance is not about me. It's about who we work with, okay, in the community. And so I think that the people that we brought out, the opportunities that we've provided, and just look at our students. I would say that the proof is in the pudding. You don't got to trust me. Just go look at our students and you'll see, and you can make a judgment for yourself.
Gosh, yeah, you remind me of a video that I posted out yesterday. And it was just me, I won't say ranting, but me talking about how there's a certain aspect of disappointment I have within my dance community here, and about the Minnesota community, where, like you said earlier, there are a lot of, teachers or instructors nowadays. And every time I look at classes, look at them, they're missing the whole history aspect of teaching dance. There's a lot of people teaching, the physical movements and things like that, but there aren't a lot of people teaching about history of dance, whether it's the history of hip hop or the history of, funk styles or anything, or just, specific Minnesota community history. There aren't a lot of that. And my biggest fear is that people who are like 15, 16 or younger, 10, 8 years old nowadays are going to grow up to be like our age in the 20s, late 20s, early 20s, and they're not going to understand or their history as much, and they're going to start conversation, and then somebody my age is going to go up on them in the comment section of Facebook and attack them for a knowledge that they didn't know, because my generation refused or didn't care to teach them that history, and I'm glad you brought that up. And I'm glad that you emphasized a lot on teaching history, because that is something that I'm seeing is almost so not relevant right now within the community here.
Yeah. And if I may, I would just say, like, there's people our age that in the scene that don't know history either. Like, there's like people who have, there's like, it's not, I am more annoyed with and just peeved by people who are our age, who have been in the scene for a while, and they don't know a name like Ken Swift. They don't know just basic fundamental like standards, and then still teaching. Like, I do think that if you do any form of hip hop dance, and I know that there's this terminology thing around like urban dance and what is choreography going to be called, what is it not? I see that and whatnot, but nonetheless, the root of a lot of those movements come from hip hop. It just does. And so it's okay to do your own thing and flip it. I'm all for that. But I do think that even if you're not breaking, you should know standard names. Yeah. Like there, and then, and do your history. And there's people, like I said, that I'm 28. They don't know basics. And I do think that that's more upsetting to me than a 15-year-old coming into it new, because I don't expect them to know. It's their first day at school. Like, that's why they're here. And that's why, again, that's another reason why House of Dance is here. You know, we're not pretending, we're not trying to be this gatekeeper to knowledge. I'm only 28. I have a lot to learn myself. But it's important now that we have, I believe, spaces like ours to help the kids out. Like you were saying about, I don't want, you know, thinking in terms of, I don't want to be conservative and call these kids out on Facebook. Okay, so what we do at House of Dance is we open the doors for these kids to come in and learn from us and be welcomed. And it's okay to say something that's ignorant. You're supposed to be ignorant when you're 15 and not knowing much, you know? And that's okay. Safe space to learn. But still being real with them, not coddling them. You know, we live in a generation today, even amongst our age, where everything's dope. No one's afraid to call each other whack. I'll tell you, the number one thing that helped me get good quick was being called whack. Like literally local scene, like people, I'm not gonna name names here, but like, be like, dude, you're whack. You're not good yet. And we're not getting enough of that yet. There's more responsible ways to do it, you know, but like, you need to say, like, you got to put in the stripes. You know, I have a term. It's called microwave dancers. We live in a society now where everything's instant with social media, the way we eat food, right? Microwave. People want to get hot fast. They want to get hot in the steam fast, but without very little skill or without true knowledge of the styles that they're doing. That's why I never went to all styles, because I'm still struggling to learn breaking 16 years into it. You know, people want to skip steps. And what happens is you get hot fast, but it doesn't taste good. And then you cool down fast, rather than, it's like cooking food. Let that simmer, add the spices, let that marinate for a long time, put it in the oven, cook it for 6 hours. And then you're going to have a real good, nutritious meal. You know what I'm saying? That's not going to cool down fast. It's going to be delicious. That's the way I look at it. So I would encourage people to, of all ages, even if you're 40, whatever, it doesn't matter. Slow down. That's why I said too, when we opened the studio, like, I never started. And I was like, oh, I'm going to teach because I'll get respect if I teach. No. I started because I love to break and I want to get good at breaking. And then it just so happened that I kind of fell into this teaching role. I love kids. I love working with kids. I don't have any little brothers or sisters of my own, but I love working with kids. I love their energy. So that's why I got into just working with kids, using my passion to share with them, because I remember what it was like to be a kid. So anyways, I can go on and on about that. But yeah, you know, history is a big thing. It's one part of it. There's other aspects of it where a lot of things are being lost. And, you know, instead of me going on Facebook and complaining and calling people out, people don't react well to that. People don't react well to being called out. Okay. What actually happens is they shut down and they actually actively don't pursue what is being encouraged. They actually will rebel against it. And I know that that's happening in our community right now as well. So that's not the right approach, you know? So all I can do is be an example and set the example. And if you see me from afar, you might be a friend of mine. You might not be. If you see me here and there, even if you see a House of Dances or whatever, anything that we're doing, if that can encourage you to do, maybe step out here and look this person up, or do this or do that, that can maybe open your mind a little bit, then good. Then that's the way I think we should do it. We also live in a time where too many people are calling each other out on stuff that they would not say in person, and they don't have good intentions. It's one thing to call somebody out and be like, hey, I think you should do this from a caring perspective, or I'm gonna call you out because I want to get in a comment where, because I really don't like you, but I'm just gonna use this, that like I'm gonna hide behind this critique of you and call you out on Facebook for everyone to see. Like, it's so goofy to me.
Yeah, keyboard warriors are a real thing.
Yeah, and it's threatening, but every once in a while, you're gonna see them in person, and their energy is different. It's not like
yeah.
but it's like the way you move on Facebook and the way you move in real life it doesn't line up, and that's not good. That's not good for you. It's not good for whoever you're talking about. It's not good for the community, because honestly, let's be honest, people gossip too. They see that little comment war, and everybody's like, "Oh, did you see what Jimmy said to Cindy?" And
they pull out the Michael Jackson with the popcorn meme, GIF out.
yeah, and everybody's doing it. And not just in the breaking community, but in all of our communities. And guess what? We all lose. We're wasting our time when we're focusing on a silly debate that really could have been handled in person or handled in a DM or like a Zoom chat. Now all of our attention is focused on silly feuds. Most of the time they're silly. So anyways, that's annoying to me. I try to stay out. I failed at staying out, but that's silly to me, man.
So what's the life of a house of dance instructor owner like what do you do? Do you ever have a break, or is it like constantly Monday through Sunday working on something?
Yeah. Well, right now, currently with the pandemic, things have slowed down.
Yeah.
When the pandemic first hit, I'm very used to being very busy. Not just with the studio, but with traveling and like training. And I'm also a father. My wife and I have a daughter. And so just always busy with something. And I thrive through production. What can I get out? What can I put out? And when the pandemic hit, things slowed down. And that made me very uneasy at first. I felt like, oh my gosh, if I'm not being productive, I don't have this self-worth, or House of Dance is going to fall off. And then I realized, I could do less, and I can I can condense what I do and make what I do stronger rather than trying to do too much. So that's what this pandemic has taught me. But in terms of the studio being open, when we're running full capacity pre-pandemic, we were open Monday through Saturday. And on Sundays, the Timberwolves and Lynx dance crews would rehearse at our studio because we still technically are, but we were the dance studio partner for Timberwolves and Lynx. So like 612 crew, First Avenue Breakers, Pups, they would rehearse on Sundays. So the studio was being used 7 days a week. Plus we're hosting like eight battles a year, 5 to 8 battles a year, 2 summer camps, 1,000+ person showcase in the fall. And I'm still trying to travel 12 times a year and raise a daughter. And so very busy, but that's the life that I've worked my way up to, that my family and our team at House of Dance have worked our way up to. And it's a very great, I'm grateful for the lifestyle. Life is hard, choose your hard. And if you can live your passion and help others, then it's worth it.
Gotcha. So then, hypothetically speaking, if breakdancing wasn't, your career or your life, what would you be doing? What career would you be in right now if it wasn't for dancing?
That's a really good question. I don't spend much time thinking about that. That's a good question, though. I don't know. I don't know. I've been really, and this might sound weird, but I feel that I'm doing what I was sent here to do. Like I'm truly doing what I was put on this earth to do. And so I don't spend any time thinking about that. I'm not sure, but whatever it was, I would hope, like I put happiness in work first, and then everything else, like income and influence and other things second, or third or fourth or whatever. So I'm not sure. I have an answer for you on that.
No problem. So are you gonna kind of nudge or push your daughter into breakdancing?
I really want to live vicariously through her. So it's so funny. She is around and has been around so many breakers who've been doing it for a long time. I mean, she hangs out with she calls him Uncle Wu because she couldn't say Leroy. Like this to say Leroy is like hard, to enunciate. So she just said Uncle Wu. So like Leroy is one of the dopest b-boys in Minnesota right now. She hangs out with Minnesota Joe's a really good friend of mine. We hang out quite a bit. She sees him break. She's watched footage. She's seen workshops. So like she's been really, really exposed to not just breaking, but the hip hop community in general. She likes it. She'll come downstairs. So I'll show y'all. This is where I've been teaching. This is my basement. I drop a practice clip at least once a week, really just for a journal, but also just to, share with the world. She'll come down here and practice with me. But in terms of me, like trying to like, hey, you got to carry on your dad's legacy. Nah, not really. If she finds something else that she's into, I'll support it. And I'll get behind it.
How old is she?
4.5.
4. Man.
Yep.
Growing up so fast.
And I know she's really growing up with the scene. So that's cool. That's really a really nice thing that she's grown up with the community. And the community here has been very gracious to her. So I'm appreciative to everyone for that.
Oh, yeah. So we have about 5 minutes left or so here. And I just want to give this opportunity for you to, just give any shout outs, throw in any plugs, where can people follow you? Or if they have any questions about House of Dance, what can people do? And anything else you want to add on?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, Vincent, thanks for your time. Thanks for the opportunity to come on your platform, your podcast here. Wish you nothing but the best as you move forward and grow it and build it. If you need anything from me, moving forward, let me know.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. Shout outs, Jake here once again. House of Dance Twin Cities, our studio is dedicated to teaching the highest quality breaking, hip hop, and funk styles, which encompasses popping and locking classes to people of all ages. We offer classes to students as young as 3 years old, and our oldest student is 73 years old. So never too young or too old to start. You can check us out on www.houseofdancetwincities.com. We are located in Hopkins. That's that. Shout out to my crew, Optimistic. Shout out to the House of Dance team of instructors. They know who they are. Without our team, we couldn't do what we do today. And we have a great team of instructors they all have really one thing in common. They do different dance styles, but they're all truly passionate and they truly care about the community. And so that's how I feel. That's how my wife feels. And so shout outs to the community. Keep going. I know this pandemic's been tough on all of us, but just, the light is at the end of the tunnel. And I hope that people take this time to realize and dig deep, look deep within themselves as to why they do this. I would encourage people to focus on their skills first and let everything else fall in place afterwards. That would be my unsolicited advice to the community in this time. Focus on your skill first, let other things fall in place. And encourage one another, y'all. That's about it. Thanks. Happy holidays.
Oh,
Happy
yeah,
holidays.
That's right. Christmas and New Year's is just right around the corner here.
Yes.
Right. But yeah, no, Jake, it was an honor to be able to sit down with you, even if it's only been for an hour. I learned a lot from you, especially about b-boying, breakdancing in general. It's been a long hiatus for me, especially just not being a b-boy, but just knowing that back then I seriously loved the community. And to be honest, I kind of wish that it was kind of vibing again, with all the high schoolers breakdancing, and literally every school would have like an after school like session, a jam with one another or their own. It was crazy back then, man.
Like a break.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Thank you, and I would be more than happy to have you on again in some future episode again.
Yeah, for sure. And then just one last thing on that note. I know we got to go, but I would say be optimistic and be encouraged, because although people might not be doing as much after school, there are schools now, like House of Dance and others, that are dedicated to teaching this. And I will say that within the next 4 or 5 years, you're going to see a whole new wave of educated breakers, young 8 to 12, 15-year-olds coming back in. So everything comes back around, just like fashion. So the scene will be back before.
Right on. All right, everyone.
Yeah.
If you haven't yet, make sure you leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, leave a comment, and if you have any questions about breakdancing, contact Jake House of Dance. Thank you, everyone,
Yes.
for watching, and I will see you all later.
Taste me, taste me. I see you running, running back to someone else. So racing, racing.